Am I the antagonist for refusing to push my mom to meet my in-laws? To preface this, I am just starting my second trimester of pregnancy, so my judgment feels very impaired, I guess. I just don't trust my own feelings at the moment. So here it goes. My in-laws have been going on and on about needing to meet my parents. They're very extroverted with a lot of friends. My parents, though, and especially my mom, are very introverted and keep to themselves. They have no one but the immediate family, mostly due to a lot of trauma from their youth. My mom hardly ever gets out because of this and deals with severe anxiety and depression. Most of all, my mom struggles with meeting people because she had always been judged and even bullied by adults. This causes her to not look forward to meeting my in-laws. They have seen each other a few times while grocery shopping, etc., and made small talk. But my mother-in-law wants to be friends, something my mom just doesn't want. They don't respect this, however, and she once again told my boyfriend I need to set up a meeting, that it's abnormal for my parents to not have met them yet. Beside all the mental trauma causing my parents to be so introverted, there have been severe life events over the course of me and my boyfriend's relationship. In those 6 years, my dad got stage 4 cancer, my grandpa got severe Alzheimer's, grandpa died, grandma died, my mom got a lot of physical ailments, my grandma was hospitalized, my father nearly died 4 times, and the list just goes on. We're even holding off on the gender reveal for a month at least because now the family dog has cancer and is getting a very extensive and severe surgery next week and can't be left alone or brought to big parties. We love our pets as family, so pushing the gender reveal forward by a few weeks is nothing. But now my in-laws are getting very annoyed because of yet another excuse, and they should just get over themselves and meet them. My boyfriend agreed with them, which pissed me off, causing a big argument. I will always support my mom over his because, even though she desperately wants to be, she will never be more to me than a mother-in-law. My mom is my mom, and that's that. But now I am made out to be the bad guy for not actively pushing my mom into something she doesn't feel comfortable doing, all because my mother-in-law needs it. They will meet at the gender reveal, but they think it should have never gotten to that before meeting each other. Am I the antagonist for not pushing my mom out of her comfort zone for their wishes? It is important to prioritize your mother's mental health and well-being, especially considering her past experiences and struggles with anxiety and depression. Your in-laws' insistence on meeting your parents, despite knowing the reasons behind their introversion and reluctance, shows a lack of empathy and understanding. Furthermore, it is unreasonable for your in-laws to expect your parents to conform to their desires, especially given the significant life events and health issues your family has been facing. It is understandable that these circumstances have caused delays in arranging a meeting. The gender reveal should be a suitable occasion for them to meet, and it is unfair for your in-laws to disregard the difficult circumstances your family has been through. It is concerning that your boyfriend is siding with your in-laws instead of supporting you and understanding the challenging position you are in. It may be worth having a conversation with him about the importance of prioritizing your family's needs and boundaries. Ultimately, it is your decision to support your mother over your in-laws, as she is your mother and her comfort and mental well-being should be a priority to you. Am I the antagonist for starting a fight with my long-term friend over $4? I am a 25-year-old woman who has been friends with Anna, a 26-year-old woman since college. Interestingly, we both got accepted into PhD programs in the same large city. We are currently living on a tight budget since we are students in a high cost of living area. Although our financial situations are not exactly the same, they are similar. Anna has a habit of spending more than she can afford on drinks, travel, and other things. However, when we engage in activities that are easier to pay for with one card, she is always quick to offer hers because she wants credit card points. The problem arises when it comes to repaying her. In order to prevent spending money needed for bills, she refuses to accept any form of payment, such as Venmo or cash, for my portion of the bill until she receives her credit card statement. Then she requests payment via Venmo, which she sets up to be applied to her credit card debt. Although this system works well for her, it is challenging for me. Firstly, I am unable to keep track of my own expenses until almost a month later, making it difficult to budget effectively. Secondly, she often sends payment requests that I believe are somewhat incorrect. The issue here is that by the time she asks for the money, it is usually too late to discuss the charges, and she gets angry when I question them. There have been instances where she requests payment without providing any transparency. For example, she once accidentally left a 40% tip, and when I noticed the higher payment request, she only explained the situation after I asked about it. I agreed to cover it because she is my friend, but I did not appreciate that she did not ask for my consent to pay the extra cost, especially since it was her mistake. I try to be the first one to pay, but it is not always possible, and I end up accepting the extra expenses. The most recent situation involves a trip we took together, which Anna organized because it was through her university. A month later, I received payment requests via Venmo that were either slightly incorrect or lacked transparency regarding the costs. For instance, she asked for gas money that included several days when I was not even there, and when I requested to pay proportionally, she reluctantly agreed. The final straw came when I agreed to pay for parking for a longer duration than I was actually present. I stayed for 3.5 days but offered to pay for 4 days, yet she charged me for 4.5 days. My personal philosophy regarding money is typically I will cover your expenses now, and you will do the same for me in the future. However, I am growing increasingly frustrated with Anna's behavior. Although the difference in the total amount was only $4, I insisted she correct it because I was tired of overpaying. Unfortunately, she refused, and in response, she called me names and accused me of being stingy, all over such a small amount. Ultimately, I gave her the money to resolve the conflict, but now we are both angry with each other and haven't spoken for days. I may be perceived as the one in the wrong because I could afford the difference, and I don't think she is intentionally doing this. Nevertheless, I believe she is being selfish by prioritizing her money system over her friendship. Your frustration with not being able to account for your spending and the difficulty in reconciling the charges in a timely manner is valid. It is important for friends to be considerate and transparent with each other when it comes to shared expenses. Anna should have discussed and agreed upon the payment terms with you before making any purchases on your behalf. It is unfair for her to expect you to cover costs that were not part of your agreement. When you brought up the issue with the parking charge and insisted on her fixing it, it was reasonable for you to assert yourself and stand up for your financial fairness. It's not about the amount, but rather the principle of the matter. She should have been willing to correct the mistake and resolve the conflict amicably instead of resorting to name-calling. In conclusion, Anna is the asshole for not being transparent with her payment requests, refusing to address your concerns, and lashing out when you attempted to resolve the issue. You have the right to voice your frustrations and expect fair treatment when it comes to sharing expenses with friends. Am I the antagonist for telling my brother he is living with the consequences of his choices? I'm a 33-year-old female, and I have an older brother named Danny who is 37 years old. We aren't very close, but we also aren't distant from each other. When we were growing up, the 4-year age gap made me the bratty little sister, but now that we're adults and both married, life just gets in the way. We meet up with our parents and significant others once or twice a month for dinner, as we all live within a half hour of each other. My husband and I have 3-year-old triplets, and sometimes we get a sitter for a much-needed night out without the kids, depending on where we're going. This past weekend, we met up with the family on Saturday night for dinner at a fancy steakhouse, and my husband and I decided to leave the kids at home. A few months ago, my brother was arrested for driving while intoxicated, DWI, and took a plea. He is currently on probation, and one of the requirements is to use an at-home breathalyzer at scheduled times, determined by the probation office. I don't know the exact number of times per day this occurs, but one of them is apparently at 8 p.m. every evening. We were in the middle of dinner when my brother suddenly interrupted my husband, saying he had to leave in 15 minutes to meet this requirement. I didn't respond and went back to my dinner. I didn't realize he was expecting a response, but apparently that was the wrong decision. Danny looked at me and asked if I heard him. I said yes and apologized for not realizing it required a response. He audibly sighed and called me selfish for not being more compassionate about the plate of shit life handed to him. I got a little irritated, but in order to keep the peace since we were having a nice dinner, I just said okay, and that we'll see him next time. After Danny and my sister-in-law left, he texted me and my husband multiple times. My parents and I stayed behind to finish our food. He called me an asshole and was apparently furious that the rest of the family didn't leave when he and my sister-in-law did. One of his texts mentioned that I lacked empathy for his situation. I got angry and responded that he is dealing with the consequences of his poor decision-making, and I didn't want my night ruined because he now has a curfew to follow. My husband and I both work full-time and don't get many nights without the kids, so it's refreshing to have some alone time. Since Saturday, both my brother and sister-in-law have sent multiple texts accusing me of being an asshole over this situation. I personally don't feel like I did anything wrong, but my mom asked me to apologize in order to keep the peace with the holidays approaching. So am I the asshole? Your brother's requirements and obligations are his own responsibility, and it was unreasonable for him to expect everyone to accommodate his curfew. You and your husband deserve an occasional kid-free night, and it's unfair for him to guilt-trip you for prioritizing your own well-being. It's understandable that your parents want to keep the peace, but it's not your obligation to apologize for this situation. Am I the antagonist for telling my grandpa I don't owe him or my stepgrandma anything when she always disrespects me and my name? Around a week ago, a group of my coworkers and I were having a casual lunch and chatting about our lives. One of my coworkers, who we'll call Jane, 34 female, who recently joined our company, shared that she has been dating a guy for a while and thinks they will be making their relationship official soon. She was really excited talking about him. Another coworker asked Jane if she had any pictures of him. Initially, she hesitated and said he doesn't like having his picture taken. Eventually, she showed us a picture of him on her phone, and when I saw it, I couldn't believe my eyes. It was Mark, 42 male, who happens to be the husband of my friend Sarah, 39 female. I was completely shocked and confused. After some questioning, I found out that Mark and Jane have been seeing each other for almost a year and were actually high school sweethearts who coincidentally reconnected. After lunch, I impulsively decided to confront Mark. We spoke on the phone and I told him everything about Jane. He admitted to seeing Jane behind Sarah's back and said it was a recent fling. He promised to end things with Jane and work on his marriage with Sarah. He pleaded with me not to tell Sarah as he wanted to fix things himself. Reluctantly, I agreed, hoping he would follow through and end things with Jane or tell Sarah about the affair. However, I later discovered that Mark hadn't kept his word. He was still involved with Jane, betraying them both. Furthermore, Jane doesn't know that Mark is married because he never told her. So at this point, both women are unaware that Mark has been two-timing them. Feeling caught in the middle and seeing that Mark broke his promise, I believed Sarah deserved to know the truth. I informed her about the affair and Mark's ongoing involvement with Jane. Sarah was devastated and confronted Mark, which led to a heated fight, police involvement, and eventually her request for a divorce. Now things have become extremely dramatic within our friend group. Some mutual friends are angry at me and blame me for causing the collapse of what seemed like a good marriage. There's a lot of hostility towards me within our friend group, and it's straining our relationships. To make matters worse, Mark's mother even reached out to me, expressing her anger and frustration. She didn't hold back, using harsh words to describe my actions. She called me a bitch and a homewrecker, even though I had no involvement in Mark's cheating. So in summary, am I the one to blame for exposing my friend's cheating husband and potentially causing a divorce? Should I have stayed out of it completely, or did I do the right thing by revealing the full extent of Mark's betrayal? You did the right thing by exposing Mark's cheating and revealing the truth to your friend Sarah. It was not your responsibility to keep Mark's infidelity a secret, especially when he continued to see Jane while promising to end things. Sarah deserved to know the truth about her husband's betrayal and make her own decisions about their marriage. Your actions may have caused some turmoil within the friend group, but ultimately, you acted in the best interest of your friend. Aita for sitting in my car for 30 mail in before coming inside after work. I work from 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. and just finished my shift. My boyfriend, who I live with, texted me that he misses me and wants me to come home quickly. I responded that I had just finished and was on my way home. However, the drive usually takes about 45 minutes due to traffic, so it's not a pleasant experience after a long day at work. Since I drive a stick shift, I avoid using my phone and keep it on silent to avoid distractions. I made my way home, parked in the lot, and decided to spend around 30 minutes watching TikTok on my phone. I needed some alone time to unwind after a stressful week before going inside. My boyfriend texted me, wondering where I was and why I was taking so long. I replied that I was sitting in my car and would be heading inside in a few minutes. It was then that I realized I had missed a call from him while I was driving. I don't know why I didn't see this when I was on TikTok, but I simply missed the notification. I didn't think much of it and went inside. Upon entering, my boyfriend was annoyed with me and said I was inconsiderate for staying in my car because he was waiting for me to come home. Given that we live together, I didn't see the issue with taking some time for myself before going inside. I explained to him that I just needed some alone time, but he ignored me and refused to talk. I ended up sitting in another room for about 30 minutes, then texted him asking to talk. He responded that he was going for a walk with his friend and would be back in an hour or two. I was okay with that, and the issue remained unresolved for the rest of the day. Today, I had to cancel a blood test appointment in the early morning due to financial issues. I called my boyfriend, who was still in bed, and informed him about the cancellation while I was in the parking lot. Since I was up early, I decided to take another 30 minutes to myself in the car. When I returned, my boyfriend expressed frustration with me for sitting in my car. I asked him why, and he said he was still upset that we didn't spend much time together yesterday. I explained that I only took 30 minutes for myself and we could have still done something together, but he chose to ignore me and hang out with his friend. He also expressed annoyance that I had ignored his call. I told him I was driving and didn't see it, but then he claimed it was unfair that I get upset when he doesn't answer my calls, usually when he's at home doing nothing. He called me a hypocritical brat. Am I in the wrong? Am I overreacting? It is understandable for you to want some alone time after a long and stressful day at work, especially if you have a 45-minute drive. Your boyfriend expecting you to immediately come inside and being annoyed when you took some time for yourself is not fair or considerate of your needs. Additionally, it is unfair for your boyfriend to compare your missed call while driving to him not answering your calls when he is at home doing nothing. Driving requires your full attention, and it is responsible of you to not use your phone while driving. It seems hypocritical for him to be upset about your missed call while disregarding his own behavior. However, it would be beneficial for both you and your boyfriend to have a conversation about your needs for alone time and quality time together. It is important to find a balance that satisfies both of you and ensures that both parties feel heard and understood. Am I the antagonist? I told my mother I would no longer look after her children. My mom named me Cashin after her mom Cassie, who died when she was 7 years old. My grandpa remarried after grandma's death, and my mom and her stepmom never had a good relationship. My stepgrandma always tried, but she was insecure and jealous of the fact that my mom held my grandma in such high regard and didn't see her in the same way. Both my mom and dad wanted to name their children after loved ones they had lost. They didn't want to wait for the right sex, so they found names that would work regardless. That's why I was named Cassian after Cassie. My sister was named after our late uncle, and my twin brother and sister were named after Mom's favorite grandparent and Dad's elderly neighbor from childhood, who was like a grandparent to him. My stepgrandma always showed her disapproval of my name. I remember being 4 or 5 when she started calling me Tommy, which has no relation to my actual name. It was weird to me, and it happened for quite some time. It bothered me that she would cringe whenever someone called me Cassie or Cass as a nickname. I didn't appreciate her doing that, and it made me dislike seeing her and my grandpa. She eventually stopped with the Tommy stuff, but then tried to call me Bertie. I told her I didn't like it, and that she needed to call me Cassian or Cass. She insisted on giving me a different nickname, but I declined. I didn't want some random name as my nickname. My grandpa asked me to compromise, but I told him they could only call me by my name or I would inform my mom, who didn't normally hear about these incidents. The most recent time she did this was 2 years ago. I decided to ignore her and haven't spent any time with them since. My mom rarely visited, but now she always comes up with excuses for them not to visit. We only see them during family gatherings now. A few days ago, my grandpa reached out to me and asked if I would come to stay with them on some weekends. He said my stepgrandma was feeling abandoned because it was obvious that none of the grandkids were interested in spending time with her. He thought it would be nice for me, as the oldest, to set a good example and help them out. I declined. He told me I could do this small thing for them because I owed them that much at least. I replied that I owed them nothing when she constantly disrespected me by calling me a different name and disregarding my preferences for a nickname. He argued that she's my grandma, but I insisted that she wasn't anyone's mom or grandma, and she still harbored bitter jealousy towards my grandma. It's not our fault that she hasn't been forgotten. He accused me of being disrespectful, and I could hear his wife in the background. He called my mom to tell her, but she sided with me and told him to leave me alone. Am I the asshole? You have every right to feel upset and disrespected by your stepgrandma's behavior. It is not fair for her to try to impose a different nickname on you against your wishes. You have made your preference clear, and it's important for others to respect your boundaries. It's also understandable that you no longer want to spend time with your stepgrandma and grandpa due to this ongoing issue. While your grandpa may have reached out to ask for your help, it is not your responsibility to fix their strained relationship with their other grandchildren. Your priority should be your own well-being, and if spending time with them is causing you discomfort, it's okay to prioritize your own feelings and boundaries. Your mom supporting you in this situation shows that she understands and respects your feelings. Stand firm in your decision and continue to prioritize your own happiness. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.